Let me tell you about someone I will call Ruth. And Ruth is really a dozen people I have talked to, folded into one. She is 71, living on Social Security, and one afternoon her phone rang. A calm, certain voice told her she owed $890 on an old credit card she barely remembered, and that if she did not take care of it today, there would be consequences. So Ruth did what a lot of us would do. She paid it to make the fear go away. Here is what took my breath away. Ruth did not legally owe a single dollar of that. The law was already on her side, and the voice on the phone was counting on her not knowing it. There are bills in your mail and on your phone right now that the law may let you stop paying. Not tricks, rights that are already yours. I built a free printable checklist with the exact words to say for every one, and I would love to just hand you the whole list right now, but I cannot share that link until this channel reaches 1,000 subscribers. That is YouTube's policy, not my choice. So if you subscribe, you are the reason it gets into everyone's hands, including your own. And I am not a lawyer. Walt is the name, and I am on the far side of 60 myself, on a fixed income like a lot of you, so I am not reporting on this from a distance. I am one of you. My one promise, I will tell you the honest truth on every one of these, including where the catch is, because a couple of them get passed around online in a form that is just plain wrong. Stay to the end for the biggest one, a bill that can run into the thousands, with a door most people never knock on that can erase the whole thing. Get a pen. So let us start with the first one, and it is the one that cost Ruth her $890. Every debt has an expiration date, not for the debt itself, but for the one thing that gives a collector real teeth, which is the right to take you to court. It is called the Statute of Limitations. It is set by your state, and for most everyday debts like a credit card, it runs somewhere between 3 and 6 years. Once that time is up, the debt is what the law calls time-barred. And here is what that means in plain English. A collector can still ask you to pay, but they cannot sue you, and they cannot even threaten to sue you. If they do threaten it, they are the ones breaking a federal law, not you. The clock usually starts on the date of your very last payment, so a card you stopped paying 7 or 8 years ago is very likely past that line already. Now here is the trap, and it is the exact trap that caught Ruth. In most states, if a collector can get you to make just one payment, even $5, or to agree to a little payment plan, or to admit in writing that the debt is yours, that single act can reset the entire clock back to zero. They know this. It is the whole reason they call an old debt and ask for a small good faith payment. That is not kindness. That is them trying to bring a dead debt back to life so they can take you to court all over again. So what do you actually do? If someone calls about an old debt, you do not confirm it, you do not pay a penny, and you do not promise anything. Not until you know two things: the date of your last payment and how long your state's limit runs. Those two facts tell you whether the door to the courthouse is already closed. And here is the catch, because I promised you I would always flag them. Time barred does not mean erased. You still technically owe it. It can still sit on your credit report for up to 7 years, and a handful of states play by stricter rules than others. So this is not a magic eraser. It is a shield, but it is a powerful one, and Ruth would have kept her money if she had known she was holding it. Before you can raise that shield, though, you have to be sure the debt is even yours to begin with, and making them prove that is the next one. Because a lot of what gets dialed at seniors is what people in the business quietly call zombie debt. These are old accounts, sometimes long dead, sometimes already paid, sometimes not even yours, that get bought and sold for pennies on the dollar. The company that buys them is betting that a certain number of frightened people will simply pay to make it stop. And you have a right that stops that cold. You can make them prove it. Here is how it works. When a collector first contacts you, they are required to send you a written validation notice within 5 days, laying out who the original creditor was and what you supposedly owe. And you have 30 days to write back and dispute it. The moment you dispute it in writing, they are required to stop collecting until they actually verify the debt. If they cannot verify it, and with these old resold accounts they very often cannot, then they cannot keep collecting on you at all. And listen closely, because this is the piece people get scared of, and they should not. Asking a collector to prove the debt is not you admitting you owe it. It does not restart any clock. It only puts the burden where it belongs, on them. There is one more tool here. If a third-party collector will not leave you alone, you have the right to tell them in writing to stop contacting you, and once they get that letter, they can only reach out to say they are closing the file or to tell you they are taking a specific legal step. Send it certified mail, keep your copy, and in the letter, call it the alleged debt, never my debt. Now, one important boundary on this one, and it matters, these rules cover third-party collectors, the outside companies. They do not cover the original business calling about its own bill, so your own bank or your own hospital calling you directly is a different situation. And telling a collector to stop calling does not erase the debt or wipe it off your credit report. So the smart order is this: make them validate it first, and only then, if you need to, tell them to stop calling. So far we have been talking about debts that strangers bought. The next one is a fee your own bank charges you, month after month, and you can very often just switch it off. I am talking about overdraft fees and the other quiet fees that drip out of a checking account. An overdraft fee is usually around $35, and if a few small charges hit on the same low day, a bank can stack several of them up before you have even had your coffee. Here is what most people were never told. You have the right to opt out of overdraft coverage on your debit card and your ATM withdrawals. When you opt out, the bank simply declines the card if the money is not there, and a declined card costs you nothing. No $35 fee. A lot of folks got signed up for that coverage years ago without ever really understanding they had agreed to it, and they have been paying for it ever since. While you have got them on the phone, ask about that monthly maintenance fee too. Banks will very often waive it if you have direct deposit, or keep a minimum balance, or simply because you are a long-time customer and you asked. And if you have a first or occasional overdraft, call and ask for a courtesy refund of the fee, in those exact words. They grant it far more often than you would think, especially for someone who rarely slips. There are also fee-free checking accounts built for seniors, and it is worth asking your branch what they offer. Here is where I have to set the record straight, because this is one of those places where the internet is handing around bad information. There is no federal law capping your overdraft fee. There was going to be one, a rule that would have held it to about $5, but Congress repealed that rule back in 2025 before it ever took effect. So if you see someone online telling you your overdraft fee is capped by law, that is simply not true anymore. Your real power here is not a cap. It is your right to opt out and your willingness to pick up the phone and ask. Those were dollars at a time. The next bill can run into the thousands, and it is the single bill most likely to be flat out wrong, the hospital bill. The numbers on this are genuinely startling. Studies of hospital bills keep finding that up to 80% of them contain at least one error. A charge for a private room when you were in a shared one, a medication billed twice, a fee for a service that never happened, being charged for a full day when you went home that morning. And almost nobody catches it, because almost nobody ever sees the real bill. What the hospital mails you is a summary, one lump total with a few vague categories. That is not the bill you want. You have the right to a fully itemized bill, line by line, every single charge, at no cost to you. So the first move, before you pay 1 cent is to call the billing department and ask for the itemized bill in writing. Then you read it, and you would be amazed what jumps off the page once you can actually see it. There is a federal law working for you here too, called the No Surprises Act. For emergency care and for the out-of-network doctors you did not choose who happened to treat you at an in-network hospital, that law says they cannot send you the balance and make you cover the difference. And if you were paying on your own and they gave you a written estimate up front and the real bill came in more than $400 over that estimate, you have the right to dispute it through a federal process. You can always ask the billing office for the Medicare rate, which is often far lower than the sticker price, ask for a prompt pay discount, and ask for a no-interest payment plan. Now, 2 things to watch on this one, because there are 2. The first, ground ambulance rides are not covered by that No Surprises Act, which is a real gap, so an ambulance bill can still surprise you. And the second is a myth I really want to clear up, because it is everywhere right now. You may have heard that medical debt is simply off your credit report now, all of it, gone. Be careful with that. A federal rule that would have removed all medical debt from credit reports was thrown out in court, so it is not the law of the land. What is actually true is that the big credit bureaus, on their own, have stopped listing paid medical debt and anything under $500, and they now wait about a year before any of it can show up at all. That is real, and it helps, but it is not everything gone. You know the real shape of it, then get surprised later. And if that bill turns out to be correct, and you still cannot pay it, there is one more door. This is the one I promised you at the start, and it is the biggest one of all. Almost 6 out of every 10 hospitals in this country are nonprofit hospitals, and in exchange for paying no taxes, federal law requires them to have what is called a financial assistance policy. You may know it by its older name, charity care. It means free or heavily discounted care for people who qualify, and it is not a favor they do out of the goodness of their heart. It is a condition of them keeping their tax break. And here is the thing that stuns people. This is not only for those with nothing. Many of these programs cover incomes well above the poverty line, 2 times it, 3 times it, at some hospitals even 4 times it, which can mean a household bringing in real money still qualifies for a serious discount or a full write-off. But almost nobody applies. And the reason is simple. The hospital does not tell you. So you have to ask, by name. The words are, do you have a financial assistance policy and can I please apply for it? It gets better. You can apply even after the bill has gone to a collector. You can apply even after you already paid it. And if they approve you, they are required to refund you the difference. And while your application is sitting there being reviewed, a collector is supposed to pause and leave you be. The one place this gets fuzzy is that each hospital sets its own income limits and decides how much it forgives, so it varies from one place to the next, and some of them make the process harder than it ought to be. But the policy has to exist. It is the law, and asking for it costs you nothing but the question. So let me put the 5 back in your hand. 1. An old debt past your state's time limit, where they can no longer take you to court, as long as you do not accidentally restart the clock. 2. Any debt a collector cannot prove is yours, which you can make them validate in writing. 3. Bank overdraft and junk fees you can opt out of and ask to have waived. 4. A hospital bill you have every right to see line by line and dispute for errors. And 5. The big one. A hospital bill a nonprofit is required by law to reduce or erase if you qualify, if you only ask. Now think back to Ruth and her $890 paid on a debt the law already said no one could make her pay. She was not foolish, she was decent, and she was scared, and no one had ever told her where she stood. That is the whole difference. Not intelligence, information. You were not raised in a world built out of this much fine print, and it is not your fault that the system got this confusing on purpose. Asking for what you are owed is not begging, it is collecting what is already yours. So do me a favor, send this to someone you love, a friend, a sister, a neighbor, before the phone rings, not after. That is how we look out for each other. And when that free checklist crosses the 1,000 subscriber line, and I can finally put the link in your hands, subscribing is what gets us there. So if this helped, come along with me. One last thing, tell me down in the comments, which one of these 5 are you going to go look at again this week? I read them and I answer.